Your mind is the sculptor, life is the stone, and Stoicism is the chisel. Section 1. The weight of what you carry. We rarely realize how much invisible weight we drag through our days. Not physical weight, but the psychological load of expectations, fears, unresolved frustrations, imagined futures, and replayed pasts. Most people live with this burden without ever naming it. They simply call it stress, pressure, or being busy. But the Stoics had another word for it: misjudgment. Because according to Marcus Aurelius, the heaviness we feel is almost never caused by the world itself, but by the stories we tell ourselves about the world. It's not external events that trouble us, but our judgments about them. Epictetus, pause on that for a moment. If this is true, if your anxiety is not the event, but your interpretation, if your anger is not the insult, but your attachment to pride, if your fear is not the unknown, but your attempt to control it, then the weight you carry is not carved into you. It's chosen, not consciously, but habitually. This is where Stoicism begins, with the uncomfortable but liberating truth that your mind is not a passive recipient of life, but an active shaper of it. The chisel is already in your hand, even if you've never learned to use it. And for the first Stoic lesson, we turn to the foundational practice. Lesson 1. Control what you can. Release what you can't. Everything you face today falls into one of two categories. 1. What is within your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, your effort, your attitude, your response. 2. What is outside your control? Other people, their reactions, their opinions, the past, accidents, outcomes, time, chance. The tragedy of modern life is that most people invert these two truths. They exhaust themselves resisting what they cannot change. They neglect what they can, and then they wonder why they feel powerless. Stoicism flips the equation. Marcus Aurelius would wake every morning and remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Not as a motivational quote, not as a mantra, but as a discipline, a trained focus, a deliberate redirection of energy back to the only battlefield where victory is possible, your own mind. So if you want clarity instead of chaos, start with a simple question. Where is my control in this situation? If the answer is, in my reaction, focus there. In my effort, give it fully. In my boundaries, reinforce them. In my preparation, sharpen it. And if the answer is nowhere, then the work is to let go. Letting go is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because it requires trust in yourself and trust in the unfolding of life. Lesson 2. You are not your thoughts. Most people live as if every thought that passes through their mind is a truth. I'm not good enough. This will never work. I always mess things up. They must think I'm stupid. I'm falling behind. I should be different by now. These lines don't arrive with evidence. They don't knock on the door and politely explain themselves. They simply appear uninvited, and most people obey them. But the Stoics understood something modern psychology is only now rediscovering. A thought is not a command. A thought is not a prophecy. A thought is not an identity. A thought is nothing more than a mental event, a momentary pattern of electrical activity. It has no authority unless you grant it authority. It has no weight unless you carry it. It has no meaning unless you sculpt it into meaning. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its purposes the obstacles to our acting." He did not say the mind naturally does this. He said The mind can do this because the mind is not the sculptor unless you train it to be. Stoicism invites you to treat your thoughts the same way a sculptor treats a block of marble, patiently, curiously, without fear, without worship. When a thought arises, ask, 1. Is this true? Most of the time, it isn't. 2. Is this useful? Even fewer are. 3. Does this align with who I want to be? This is the real filter. Confidence isn't loud. Clarity isn't dramatic. Peace isn't effortless. They are simply what remain when unnecessary thoughts are removed, just like a sculptor doesn't create a statue by adding clay, but by subtracting stone. You don't create a stronger mind by adding more thoughts, more noise, more analysis. You become stronger by removing what is false, unhelpful, or unaligned. That's what makes you lighter. That's what makes you calmer. That's what makes you unshakable. And this brings us to the third lesson, the one that transforms your relationship with difficulty itself. Lesson 3. The obstacle is the way. Life will never remove obstacles. Life will never clear your path. Life will never stop challenging you, surprising you, or resisting your plans. And that is the gift. Because according to the Stoics, obstacles are not interruptions of your path. They are the path. When you expect life to be easy, every difficulty feels like an injustice. When you expect life to be unpredictable, every challenge feels like training. Marcus Aurelius observed, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it," meaning a strong mind transforms adversity into fuel, not by pretending hardship is pleasant, not by repressing emotion, but by recognizing that difficulty is information. It reveals where you're still weak, where you need discipline, where you lack boundaries, where your ego is still fragile, where your patience is still conditional, where your priorities are still scattered. Every obstacle shows you a place where you can grow. Every setback shows you a place where you can strengthen your technique. Every hardship shows you a place where the sculpture is not yet complete. The Stoic does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What is this training me for?" Hardship is not punishment. It's preparation. Resistance is not an enemy. It's a teacher. Pain is not a verdict. It's a signal pointing toward the next step in the shaping of your character. And once you internalize this, truly internalize it, the world cannot defeat you, because every attempt to break you becomes material you use to build yourself. Now that we understand how to use obstacles, we move to the next lesson, the one that teaches how to walk through life without being owned by your emotions. Lesson 4. Master your emotions or they will master you. Your emotions are powerful. They can sharpen your perception or distort it. They can energize you or paralyze you. They can move you toward wisdom or drag you toward chaos. The Stoics never taught emotional suppression. They taught emotional sovereignty. A suppressed emotion is like pressure trapped inside a sealed container. It expands, distorts, and eventually explodes. A controlled emotion is like water flowing through a channel, directed, purposeful, and contained. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, your mind is complicit in the provocation." This is not blame. This is power, because an emotion can rise within you, but it doesn't have to rule you. Most people live as if the first feeling is the final truth. I feel angry, so I must express it. I feel jealous, so something is wrong. I feel anxious, so danger must be near. I feel hurt, so someone must pay. Stoicism teaches a different approach. The first feeling is involuntary. The second feeling is optional. The behavior is always a choice. You can feel anger without becoming anger. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. You can feel fear without retreating. You can feel frustration without reacting impulsively. This is emotional discipline, not coldness, not indifference, not numbing, but a calm space between stimulus and response, the space where wisdom lives. When emotion rises, practice the Stoic pause. 1. What exactly am I feeling? Name it. Precision weakens confusion. 2. What story am I telling myself? Separate narrative from fact. 3. What response aligns with the person I want to be? Choose character over impulse. This pause is a superpower. It turns reactivity into strategy. It turns chaos into clarity. It turns emotion from a master into a messenger. You can't stop the wave from rising, but you can learn how to surf it. And once you develop emotional mastery, you become prepared for the next lesson, seeing life with a clarity most people never reach. Lesson 5. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. Everything you experience is filtered, not through your senses, but through your interpretations, your past, your beliefs, your fears, your desires, your insecurities, your expectations, your unresolved memories. Two people can live the same event. One sees injustice, one sees opportunity. Two people can face the same failure. One sees humiliation, one sees feedback. Two people can receive the same criticism. One sees an attack, one sees a mirror. Stoicism reminds us, you are not reacting to life. You are reacting to your perception of life. And if your perception is distorted, so is your reality. Marcus Aurelius phrased it simply, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Meaning, if you live in suspicion, the world will appear threatening. If you live in envy, the world will appear unfair. If you live in entitlement, the world will appear disappointing. If you live in gratitude, the world will appear generous. The challenge is not to change the world, but to clarify the lens through which you view it. And the Stoics train this clarity like a muscle. 1. Remove assumptions. Don't fill gaps with fear. 2. Remove exaggerations. Don't turn moments into catastrophes. 3. Remove personalization. Not everything's about you. 4. Remove projection. Your emotions are not universal truths. Clarity is not passive. Clarity is crafted. Just like a marble statue emerges as excess stone is removed, a clearer mind emerges as illusions are chipped away. And with clearer perception comes our next transformation, the realization that you are stronger than you think. Lesson 6. Endure voluntarily. Hardship is your training ground. Most people try to avoid discomfort their entire lives. They escape it, numb it, distract themselves from it, complain about it, negotiate with it. But the Stoics did something radically different. They practiced discomfort on purpose, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood a timeless truth. If you avoid discomfort, life will break you. If you train with discomfort, life will strengthen you. Seneca wrote, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, and ask yourself, is this the condition I feared? This is voluntary hardship. Sleeping on the floor sometimes, fasting occasionally, taking cold showers, walking instead of driving, training the body, sitting with boredom, facing silence, accepting inconvenience, not to prove toughness, not to perform asceticism, but to teach your mind something crucial. You are capable of far more than your comfort zone suggests. When you practice discomfort deliberately, 3 transformations occur. 1. Fear shrinks. What you've already endured voluntarily can't terrify you involuntarily. 2. Resilience grows. Your threshold for adversity expands. 3. Gratitude deepens. What you once took for granted becomes visible again. Suddenly, food tastes richer. Warmth feels like a blessing. Silence becomes soothing. Calm becomes a luxury. Voluntary hardship increases appreciation for what you already have and decreases your dependence on things you don't control. A mind that can endure discomfort becomes a mind that cannot be bullied by life. And that brings us to the next lesson, one that touches the core of success, discipline, and character. Lesson 7. Discipline is destiny. People often believe that greatness requires motivation. The Stoics knew the opposite. Greatness requires discipline, especially when motivation is absent. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Motivation fluctuates. Discipline sustains. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being, not as a soldier, not as an emperor, not as a philosopher, but as a human being, someone with responsibilities, purpose, and the capability to improve the world, even in small ways. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about alignment. Doing what aligns with your values, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is keeping the promises to yourself. Showing up, following through, being reliable. Not because anyone is watching, but because you are watching. Every small act of discipline becomes a vote for the person you want to become. The Stoics believed identity is not discovered. It is sculpted through repeated action. The world admires results, but the Stoics admired those who build themselves, and few things build you more than discipline. Lesson 8. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. This is not morbid. This is not depressing. This is not pessimistic. This is liberating. The Stoics meditated on mortality not to feel anxious, but to feel awake, to stop postponing life, to stop wasting time, to stop assuming later is guaranteed, to stop living as if infinity were promised. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Memento mori. Remember you will die is not a threat. It's a compass. It pulls your attention back to what matters. It dissolves trivial worries. It shrinks ego. It elevates gratitude. It sharpens focus. When you truly face the finiteness of life, 3 things happen. 1, you stop delaying your dreams because one day becomes today. 2, you stop tolerating the unnecessary, toxic habits, toxic environments, toxic people. They no longer deserve space in a finite life. 3, you start living intentionally. You protect your time. You invest in what matters. You choose presence over distraction. Death is not a wall at the end of life. It is a lens through which life becomes meaningful. When you remember you will die, you finally begin to live. And with mortality acknowledged, the Stoics turn to an equally powerful realization, the one that transforms not just mindset, but relationships and peace of mind. Lesson 9. You can't control others. You can only influence through character. One of the greatest sources of human frustration is the belief that we can change people. We try to convince them, fix them, guide them, correct them, save them, or force them to act the way we wish they would. But the Stoics were brutally clear. You cannot control another person's mind, actions, values, or growth. You can only control your own character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Not strict in a harsh way, strict in a disciplined, self-responsible, inner strength way. People are not clay for you to mold. They are mirrors that reveal your triggers, your patience, your attachments, and your expectations. When someone behaves poorly, the Stoic does not ask, "How do I make them stop?" The Stoic asks, "Who do I want to be in response?" That shift changes everything, because when you attempt to control others, you become reactive, you become angry, you become disappointed, you become drained, you give away your peace. But when you focus on your own conduct, you regain clarity, you regain composure, you regain influence, you regain inner strength, you regain your power. The Stoics understood that influence does not come from force, it comes from example. You teach patience by being patient. You teach respect by being respectful. You teach calm by being calm. You teach integrity by living with integrity. People learn more from your behavior than your arguments. Your character is your loudest message. And when you master this, you unlock the next Stoic truth, one that changes everything about how you live your days and spend your most precious currency. Lesson 10. Protect your time. It's your most irreplaceable wealth. Money can be regained. Reputation can be rebuilt. Opportunities can return. Energy can recover. But there is one resource that is permanently, relentlessly, and silently shrinking: your time. Seneca famously warned, "People are frugal with their money, but wasteful with their time." We guard our wallets, yet hand out pieces of our life as if they were infinite. We waste hours in worry. We waste days in distraction. We waste years in environments that drain us. We waste decades living for other people's expectations. Time is the currency of your life, and each moment spent cannot be refunded. The Stoics trained themselves to ask, "Is this worth my time, my life?" Not, "Does it feel good? Is it convenient? Does it please others? Does it impress anyone?" But, "Is this aligned with my purpose? Does this nourish the person I'm becoming? Does this contribute to my long-term peace and growth?" When you begin valuing your time as the Stoics did, you naturally set boundaries. Say no more often. Prioritize deeply. Waste less energy. Choose quality over quantity. Seek meaningful conversations. Avoid trivial drama. Focus on what matters today. You start living deliberately, not reactively. Lesson 11. Failure is not final. It is feedback. Most people fear failure because they misunderstand it. They think failure is a verdict, a judgment, an identity, a signal that they are not good enough. But failure is none of these things. To the Stoics, failure is simply information, nothing more, nothing less. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Failure does not hurt you. Your interpretation of failure does. What looks like failure is actually a test of resilience, a refinement of skills, a correction of path, a filter for true desire, a sharpening of character. Failure reveals what still needs chiseling. A sculptor does not get angry when his first cuts don't form the perfect figure. He adjusts, improves, refines, learns. That's what failure really is, a tool for shaping the self. The Stoics never sought to avoid failure. They sought to use it, because failure only becomes permanent when you stop. It only becomes identity when you internalize it. It only becomes defeat when you surrender your growth. Everything else is progress. Now, with failure reframed and transformed, we reach the final lesson, the one that ties the entire Stoic worldview into a single, unshakable principle. Lesson 12. Live by virtue. Character is the ultimate measure of a life. When all the noise is stripped away, when success fades, when youth softens, when possessions break, when reputation shifts, when everything external proves temporary, only one thing remains: your character. This is the heart of Stoicism, not intellectual philosophy, not quotes, not clever ideas, not clever tricks for productivity or calm, but virtue. The intentional crafting of a noble, disciplined, honest, courageous, compassionate inner life. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, reduced greatness to 4 things: wisdom, seeing clearly and acting with understanding; courage, doing what is right even when it costs you temperance; mastering desire, pleasure, impulse; justice, treating others fairly, with dignity and integrity. Virtue is not performance. Virtue is not perfection. Virtue is not purity. Virtue is alignment, your actions matching your values, your behavior matching your principles, your choices reflecting the person you aspire to be. You can lose everything else, but a virtuous person is never truly impoverished, because character is the only wealth that follows you everywhere, survives every circumstance, and determines the quality of your life more than any external force. A life built on virtue is unshakable. A life guided by virtue is peaceful. A life lived with virtue becomes a gift to everyone who encounters you. And this brings us to the closing message, where everything we've explored becomes one integrated path. Closing message: sculpt yourself daily. You are a work in progress, but not in the passive sense. You are the sculptor. You are the marble. And every day is an opportunity to take one more intentional stroke. Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless. It's not about pretending nothing bothers you. It's not about looking calm on the outside while you're drowning inside. It's about becoming strong enough, clear enough, disciplined enough, aware enough, and compassionate enough to meet life with courage rather than fear, to meet setbacks with strategy, to meet emotions with clarity, to meet people with patience, to meet obstacles with resilience, to meet death with peace, to meet yourself with honesty. Your life is shaped not by what happens to you, but by how you respond, how you perceive, how you endure, how you choose, and who you decide to be. At Sculpted Grace, we don't chase perfection. We cultivate presence. We cultivate intention. We cultivate strength. We cultivate grace. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. The marble block of your life waits for you every morning, and the chisel is already in your hand. Carve lightly some days, carve boldly on others, but never stop carving, because the person you're becoming is worth it, and the sculpture you create with your mind, choices, and character will outlast every storm, every setback, every judgment, and every obstacle. This is the Stoic path. This is your path, and it begins again today.